Okay, this is a very important video, just like all the other ones. I've done 3 of them so far, and this is the 4th one. But this one's very important because there is 1,000 years before Jesus comes back. Surprise. What does the Bible say in the Old and New Testament? In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every word be established. Let's see how many witnesses we have for this theory, which is not a theory. It's a hypothesis. That means you could test it, right? So let's see. We have 3 witnesses. Okay? The first witness is God sets a pattern for us. So God created everything in 6 days, rested on the 7th. So there are 7 days in a week. Here's the original pattern. 7 days in 1 week. There's a pattern. Now, one witness. Second witness is the Holy Breath spake through Peter. And 2 Peter 3 talks about the second coming of Jesus. And if we're to take those words literally, which we very well could, because he's talking about the second coming of Jesus, he says that 1 day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as 1 day, speaking of the second coming of Jesus. Do not be ignorant. So if that's the case, if we take it literally, which you could or you couldn't, that's up to you. I don't care. I only care a little bit about the people who care. Then that means that there's 7,000 years. Here's the pattern. 1 day with the Lord is 1,000 years. There's 7,000 years of human history. But what's really interesting is the third witness. Okay, according to here, let me get my parenthesis hands. The rabbinical, biblical calendar, the year 2016 was 5,777 years. What that means is, according to their calendar, what that means is there's 6, almost, we're closing in on the 6th millennium, the 6,000th year of human history. If that's true, and 2 Peter is true, and the pattern at the beginning is true, that means when we close in on the 6,000th year of human history, we still have 1,000 years to go before the 7,000, where Jesus comes back and reigns for 1,000 years. What that would mean is there would be 6,000 years of human history, and then the 7,000 would be the millennium where Jesus comes back and where he reigns for 1,000 years with the saints. So I think that that's more than sufficient evidence for me personally to believe this. But you might ask yourself, well, okay, we're living in the last days, and what about the frequent earthquakes and volcanoes and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da? But you forget that we're also living in the age of technology. See, that's a hoax. And the reason how come all the false prophets and false Christians and preachers and the news and everything is talking about these cataclysmic events is because we're living in the age of technology where they're able to create this on the computer. Where did they get the knowledge to build the technology? See, that's secret knowledge. That's hidden knowledge. They got that from somewhere, and I bet you it wasn't from God. So anyways, the whole last days thing is a hoax, and the reason why they're doing it is because that when the devil comes down pretending to be Jesus or pretending to be God, nobody would believe it if they didn't see the book of Revelation being played out around them. So that's what you see. You see the book of Revelation being played out around you. So we're expecting Jesus, but when he comes down, that's not going to be Jesus. Now, because you're a good audience, I'm going to bless you with another cipher. See, on the first episode, I did the Mark of the Beast cipher, but this is interesting and it coincides with the subject right now. This right here, you can just omit these words because this is a different study. This right here is actually a cipher, and it's a calendar. And let me tell you, there's 2 to 3 witnesses on this too. I'll make it real quick because this takes a lot of brain power to understand. So pray that God will reveal it to you. Okay, so there were some hoaxsters, some jokesters, right, who came on the Christian scene that suggested that this was a calendar. They suggested it was the Mayan calendar because at the bottom it says 1776 in Roman numerals. Then there's 13 steps of time, and at the top, their so-called God comes back. So that's supposedly what the Mayan calendar, the end part, looks like. It starts at 1776, has 13 steps of time, and at the end, their God comes back. Well, I did a little research, and I was like, okay, interesting, whatever. But then I found another cipher, the 777 cipher. So that was a second witness that this, hey, there's something to this. So if you put this in, regular numbers, 1776, you take the 1, you put it over here, it's 777. Now, Aleister Crowley, the wickedest man in the world, he wrote a magical book over 100 years ago called 777. It was about demon possession. So if each one of these are 20 years, 13 steps of 20 years, you get up to here. The last step is 2016, where Donald Trump was elected. And at the time that he was elected, his first day, he was 70 years old, 7 months and 7 days. So you have 777. Then you have Aleister Crowley wrote a magical book about demon possession called 777. Then you go up to here, you have the man, Donald Trump, who is 777 on his first day. And then also, what was the third 777? Oh, it was the rabbinical calendar once again. The year 2016 was 5. When he was elected, it was 5777. So you have 4 sets of 777. So I was like, man, there's something to this. So I was like, okay. And then I counted how much time is actually here from 1776 up to the last thing. There's 260 years, which is interesting because the beast from the sea, which is America, was able to reign for 1,260 years. So this is 260 years. The start date for the sea beast, 1776. So it goes up 260 years. Then right here, their God comes back. This is, the light is a triangle going up. The dark is the left eye. You put the light and the dark together and you have balance. Their God. So you get 260 years. And then in 2036, their God comes back and you get the 1,000-year millennial Reich. Hitler was an initiate of Satanism. And so the devil reigns for the 6th millennium, 6,000 years. And then Jesus reigns the 7,000 year. So to make a long story short, and I know it's complicated, that's why you have to pray. We have the Mayan calendar. And by the way, this is flat. This is a Mayan pyramid. You have the Mayan calendar, kind of confirming that this is calendar. But then you have the Donald Trump 777 cipher, which I think is more convincing for me. But then you have this equals 260 years, 20 years, 20 years, 20 years, 20 years, 20 years, adds up to here. And then if this is the 6,000th year, then the devil reigns for 1,000 years, the 1,000-year Reich, the millennium of Satan, and then Jesus comes back. So that's the end of the Bible study. The point I'm trying to make is that there is sufficient evidence to do a thorough study for yourself to see if what I'm saying is the truth. You have 3 witnesses for this calendar, right? Well, what's really important is the Bible. And you have 3 witnesses in the Bible. You have the first pattern of 7 days. You have 2 Peter, which tells us each day is 1,000 years to the Lord, about the second coming. And then you have Jesus coming back and reigning for the millennium, the 7th, the Sabbath. So, whether you understand or whether you don't understand, that's not up to me. That's up to you and God. My job is just to transmit the information. We're not in the last days. We're actually going to get purged. It says the sea beast, which is America in Revelation 13, was able to make war with the saints and to overcome them. So Christianity is about to get wiped out. We're going into the post-Christian era of Satanism. But don't worry. If all the Christians are wiped out during the Great American Purge, which is going to happen, and right now it's December 2018, remember that the woman that gave birth to a child was given wings of an eagle, and she was able to go into the wilderness and hide out for 1,260 days also, and that's Israel. The Messianic Jews are out there somewhere, 144,000 tribes chosen that are going to represent God on earth. So when the Christians are wiped out, God still has a chosen people for himself. That they are without fault, first fruits of God, virgins not defiled, and they're going to represent God when all of us Christians are gone. So interesting study. Pray on it and go read. Read your Bible. Get you a King James Bible and read it. Don't get a watered down one, because you will just, if the blind leads the blind, they will be lost. They will both fall into the ditch. Good night and God bless. It's morning though. Good night.